2, 1, and we are recording with the one and only Mr. Charlie Duke, 10th man to walk on the moon, youngest man to walk on the moon, and Warren Esh Peter, who has not been on the moon, and neither has myself. And our friend Aaron Shepard couldn't make it because he's busy. I'm not sure when the next time he's going to talk to someone who's walked on the moon is, so his loss. But Mr. Duke, thank you so much for coming back on. And my friend Warren here. Warren, introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Warren Esh Peter. I run a space-themed nonprofit that does a lot of educational outreach and research. Right now, we're funding the University of Georgia to build a small satellite, a little CubeSat, about the size of this thing. And currently, I'm living in Colorado, working for another space company as an engineer as well.
Yeah, and Mr. Duke needs no further introduction. Excuse me?
Where are you located?
Me? I'm in Ocean City, Maryland.
Okay.
I'm not far from Wallops Island. I've yet to see a launch. But Mr. Duke came on here last time and we spoke about a lot of things, one of which was rediscovering faith after you came back from the moon. And I've actually used that analogy a lot with people. Where do you go after you've climbed the highest rung? You often see it with individuals. They've made all the money in the world. I believe Sam Walton, founder of Walmart, said on his deathbed, "I've wasted it," meaning that what do I do now? And I spoke to Warren about that beforehand. But Warren also brought up some other questions that I forgot to ask you about last time. But, working for a Coors bottling or a distribution plant?
I was a distributor.
Yeah.
Of course, they were expanding into South Texas, and I thought it would be at that point in my life, I was, looking from moon to money, and that was a good opportunity. I had a friend up in Wichita, Kansas, that came into business with me. We were sort of equal partners. I was doing the work, and he was financing most of it. So that started a very lucrative business for about 2 years. And then my family, my brother, my sister, and others didn't think it was a very good profession for a former astronaut. So there was.
What were they suggesting that you do?
They were praying. Yeah, I know they were praying. I said, God, if you don't want him in this business, and my wife too, if you don't want him in this business, make it so miserable that he sells out. So that was one of her prayers. And anyway, I enjoyed the beer business, but it wasn't for me. And so I had a choice to make after about 2 years, and that was, I chase the money, or do I go for peace in my life? And so I chose I better go for peace, and sold out. So that was the start of my business career, and then since then I've done a lot of different things. I finished up. That was in 78 that I sold out my beer business, and then I was finishing my Air Force Reserve, actually, and so I was working a lot in the Air Force recruiting service, and they would call me to duty, say 60 days at a time, and so I was probably 6 months a year involved with them, and the rest of my time was just growing in the Lord. At that point, I'd come to the Lord right after I sold the beer business, and so seemed like every chance I got, I was reading the Bible, and, going to some Bible studies and all, and just growing in my faith and seeing my life change, and my marriage and family, and all of those kind of things.
Yes, sir. And so obviously we spoke about last time and sort of now is how after you came back from going to the moon, it was like there's, I believe you said you helped work on the preliminary designs for the space shuttle, but it just wasn't fulfilling, it wasn't the same thing. And would you say that, so I preface that to say, so we know obviously the moon had an impact on your faith. Now, is there like a different angle to it though? Is there something about, regardless of your religion, you might wake up and see a beautiful sunrise, or you might see, like baby ducks or like freshly fallen snow, all sorts of things that, can just fill one with, I mean, it's filled, like it's inspired poets for millennia. Do you feel that something about, no pun intended, something so alien as walking on another celestial body, does that ever get tied back into, I guess, your reinvigoration of faith after you came back?
I think so. When I really committed my life to the Lord in April '78, as I said, started reading the Bible, and at that point, I realized that as I was reading through the scriptures, it's some beautiful verses, like in Isaiah, it says the 19th Psalm says, the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the works of his hands. And I start looking at the moon at that point, and all the starry host and the Milky Way. And I said, man, the power of God to speak all of that into existence, and the orderliness of the universe is, so that began to strengthen my faith in the Creator, that we all aren't an accident. There's a design, and we are made in his image, and he's given us this beautiful earth to enjoy. And so, yeah, see the little ducks in the waddling behind their mom, or we live above Lando Park here. There's a lot of ducks down there, and so we drive through, and there they are. And so it's life. We have deer in our yard, white-tailed deer wandering through, and they drop their babies down the hill from us, and up they come. And so you just see all of that wonder, if you will, of life. And God's given us all that.
Yeah. Warren, I know, Warren, you sent me several questions beforehand, and I like a real good friend, I ignored them, but I don't want to I don't want to take out your time. So
I'm loving it.
Yeah. But Warren, so what do you have any questions for Mr. Duke? Because I'm going to keep going on like an idiot. I always
No. I love the direction it's going in. One thing I'll say is when I was working at Kirtland Air Force Base a few years ago, I was in this apartment complex right near the gates, and there was this family of ducks that lived in this extremely dirty artificial pond that we had. But I loved it. They became my friends. But something that I just want to talk about, I guess, is directly related to what you just said, the wonder and the glory of life behind it all, right? And that's such a stark contrast to being one of the only people within, a million miles. And then for the people in the future going beyond that. So I guess, how would you compare the beauty or the wonder of being on the moon, or even just being alone in that extreme darkness looking at the cosmos, versus seeing the sort of joys we see on Earth? Did it kind of strike a different chord with you, or did it feel very similar, the sort of awe?
Well, of course, the difference of looking at it from Earth and seeing that half moon up there, said I can see basically where I landed. It brings back a lot of nostalgia and a lot of wonder and satisfaction. That I was able to do that, and but being there it wasn't spiritual, and I wouldn't even call it philosophical experience. What it was a wonder, an awe and an excitement, and a sense of belonging that this was something that we were supposed to do as humans, and go explore. I believe God has given us this spirit of inquisitiveness, and to seek out and to discover. And that was it was that sense that I think drove John and I while we were there. It was just a tremendous sense of belonging, and the experiments we had to do, all of that. Is so looking back on it now, as I see it from afar. I just got a email from a young man that's lives. He's a college student. I think he lives up in the Northeast somewhere, but he's remastered all of the Apollo 16 films.
Oh, wow.
And it's 2 hours and 35 minutes. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
Apollo remastered or something like that. I'll send you the link, Tommy.
Okay.
But it's fantastic. I mean, it brought it all back. I mean, things I had forgotten.
Really?
That's awesome.
And so it was, we watched it night before last, and my wife and I. So I'm spreading it all over right now. All my old NASA buddies. We got, we got this association of people that former NASA guys and gals that were there during Apollo. And so I put the word out to Bill Moon, who was a flight controller, and he sort of handles the list. Anyway, so it's well worth your 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Definitely. That sounds cool.
Absolutely.
One thing, sorry.
Others also, but I haven't had a chance to watch it. But he wrote me an email and about this. He wanted me to see it. So
that's amazing.
Wrote him, sit back and said that was tremendous.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's super cool. I have just I guess a little follow-up. I think it's when you say that there was a sense that you were supposed to be there, right? When you go to the moon, like God has made all this, and it's for us to explore and to expand and to learn and to love and all that. That's probably the first time I've heard something like that, right? Even on Earth,
yeah.
With I don't want to call it like the conquering, but the exploring of the Americas, especially, and all of manifest destiny, right? The colonizers say, God wanted us to do this. God wanted us to do this. But then, looking back, some historians, or the way that it was done is just like, we don't know if that was great with the Native Americans and things like that. But with going to the moon, just having a sense that you were going to be there, do you see that in other astronauts, or hold that same emotion for going even beyond the moon, right? It's our destiny to go beyond that, to Mars and past the solar system, everything like that.
Yeah, I do see it. I think it was apparent in Apollo, and now that we got Artemis, and I see the excitement in the crews that have been selected, or the astronauts have been selected. I don't think the crews exactly have been selected, but there's a whole cadre of present day astronauts, and I see their excitement about it. And let's go explore another part of the moon that we didn't even get close to. They're aiming for the South Pole region. And I've been working with some of the contractors who are, hoping to build the lander and the rover, and it's been to see their excitement and what they have, what they envision, and how NASA's going to use all of this is it's got everybody really excited, and I agree. It's going to be that nature is just within us. Everybody doesn't have the desire to go out in deep space, but that nature of exploration. I'm a member of the Explorers Club, and we've got members who are exploring the undersea or going down into caves and trekking the Antarctic and all of that, just to explore it all. And so you see this inquisitive nature that God has given us, and I think He wants us to understand our universe. And I don't think, I'm not one to colonize, but I don't think we'll ever do that. But certainly to go out and explore, maybe even as far as Mars. Mars is a order of magnitude more than a moon mission. So,
oh yeah, that's months.
It's I don't mean just time-wise. I mean a monumental task to build something that's so dependable that they can fly it out there and be gone a year and a half, and with no chance of refurbishment or resupply. Maybe you're on your own when you and you leave.
Yeah, for sure.
You leave Earth orbit.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think perhaps that's some of the attraction though? Is, we look back at, I've been hearing, I was born in 1990, and I mean, I remember hearing this as far back as middle school. It was like they went to the moon with less like computing power than the calculator on your desk, and do you think that's some of the attraction? Is that like, yeah, you got on top of like a thimble on top of a rocket as tall as the Empire State Building, and then lit it and just went. Is that some of the attraction though? It's like, hey, there's no room for error.
Well, I think that's part of it, but just the adventure of it is what attracts people. Yeah. I'm ready to do this and commit my 2 years to it.
Yeah.
And have confidence in your equipment and all the knowledge that takes. To me, I look at a Mars mission similar to Apollo 8. When they lit that engine on the S4B to push them out of Earth orbit, they were on their own. It had to work.
Yeah.
They weren't going to come back. And they took it willingly.
Yeah.
My neighbor, Bill Anders, we live next door to Bill, and families were close, and they were just ready to go. Nobody wringing their hands, like this. Oh my God, why are we doing this? And maybe some of the press and the Congress, but certainly not at NASA. And so they undertook that, and you look at that mission. It was the first time people had been on board the Saturn V. It was just the second time that they had flown the command service module, and with people, and we're committing them in this system that had that low level of experience on it to take these people to the moon and back.
Yeah.
The crew said, we're ready. And so, it all worked. I look back now on that, and I think one of the most profound statements from the moon was, of course, Neil Armstrong's first step, one small step. That quote.
Yeah.
For me, the second was on Apollo 8 when they turned on the TV and they had Earthrise and they started reading from Genesis.
Oh yeah.
It was profound, and I was, even though I wasn't a real follower of Christ, then it really touched me. And,
Yeah.
So they're one of the only crews that everybody's still alive, and so of the whole crew. And
That's great.
they took a lot on, and they were willing to do it. Foreman was a great commander, and Lovell and Anders, and so.
Mr. Duke, do you think you could get them to join you on this podcast? Do you think you could get everybody to sit down together?
I'd reminisce.
I can ask, but I doubt it. I don't.
Tommy's not that cool yet.
I'm not. See, it's a lot different if I email them versus if you do. There's different tiers of credibility if you ask them versus myself. That would be amazing. So I was thinking, it started to strike me last summer that there are a lot of similarities between the 60s and right now, right? I mean, you could draw comparisons with Vietnam and the Middle East with us pulling out. You could draw comparisons with race relations. You could draw comparisons with are we fighting a foe, the Soviet Union, or are we with China? Do you think that we could benefit equally from, because it's so insane that it's like, it's when we went to the moon, just ignore the fact that we actually went, but I mean, it's 6 years after Kennedy was assassinated. It's 7 years after the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's right smack dab in the middle of the Cold War. And with all this social turmoil and unrest, and we still went, do you think that there is some power in like a national effort to go to Mars? Again, not because it is easy, because it is hard. Do you think that do you think that has the possibility to sort of pull us through these, I mean, what I believe uncertain times in America, or is that just a pipe dream?
Well, I don't see that unity in our country that surrounded Apollo and started pushing Apollo. I think the whole country came behind that at first. Changed later after about 15 and 16, things started to change as far as the political climate goes. But right now, I don't see that we're going to do that motivation and that leadership that Kennedy gave, the boldness of those speeches, and so we're going to do this, and for our a variety of reasons, and the whole nation got behind it,
Mm-hmm.
in spite of Vietnam, and in spite of the turmoils in the politics. It was something that I think united our country,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't see that yet, but it come as far as certainly the Mars missions go. But who knows? If there's some vital discovery or something like that will push us into undertaking that tremendous engineering feat of designing a system that would go to Mars and return the crew safely.
Yeah.
I see with Artemis, I see there was I think a unity. We haven't heard much from the Biden administration about his stand on space, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
After George Bush did what's called the Constellation, Obama canceled everything except the Orion, which was the command service module. Apollo on steroids, if you will.
Yeah.
And then, and so it sort of languished there, and we were being very successful with space station and shuttle, but near Earth orbit. And now Trump comes along and says, okay, we're going to commit Artemis. And now, and I think we're subject to the whims of the American Congress and the administrations. Hopefully that we can see the benefit of the technological spinoff and revolution that takes to develop these systems, and this work ethic, if you will, and apply it to our country. And as you know, as Apollo did, and I mean, I think what the technologies that were developed in the Apollo were foundational, if you will. You see that now in all of we experience in engineering and communications, and it's still exponentially increasing. And so, you know, this good came out of it. Somebody says, why do we spend more? I think back in like 70, anyway, the mid 70s, some reporter somewhere asked me, why do we spend so much money on the moon? And I said, well, we didn't spend any money on the moon. We spent on the United States of America.
Oh, yeah.
And we had 400,000 people working directly at the height of Apollo. And then the grocery store was living off of those 400,000 jobs. And so was the car dealer, and so was the doctor, and so was you name it.
Yeah.
The spinoff of all of that across the country had a tremendous impact on every area of our country. And so it's not just wasted money. It was building a industrial and engineering foundation for the country that was with the entrepreneurs of today. They just, well, let's take this and go that way with it.
Yeah.
And it paid off tremendously.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it laid a huge groundwork, and now with private space, that's SpaceX, Blue Origin, you name it, the biggest things. Because in my time I was at NASA JPL for a bit, and so I have some friends at different NASA centers, and all of their work is so dependent on the administration. And in, you know, today's age, Trump could tweet something, and then their whole group, like 500 people, would be like, oh crap, now we got to do Mars instead of the moon. We're switching, boys. And so you have all these hours of simulation and research doing specific moon tasks, goes to Mars because of one tweet, and you're like, well, there goes 4 months. And then it goes back and forth and back and forth. But with these private companies, right, SpaceX going to Mars, pretty single lane mine, you know, it's not as impacted by that. And I mean, they can go and win grants to attempt landing on the moon for the Artemis missions, right, and things like that. But having that more solidified foundation and knowing the direction without the administration having a huge impact on it, I think is the greatest thing accelerating us towards any exploration of Mars or the moon in the future.
Maybe that needs to be the ultimate COVID stimulus. Is we're going to Mars by the end of the decade, not because it is easy, because it is hard. Put everyone back to work. I mean, they got to use those clean rooms anyway to build all that stuff. So we'll all be quarantined. We'll all be in the hazmat suits.
Yeah,
maybe that's the ultimate. Mr. Duke, we've gotten to 30 minutes, and I do have 2 more questions from Warren that I'll run by really quickly.
I'm enjoying it, so let's.
Okay. Woo, awesome.
I
is
like to think I made the positive impact on
I
this
think you did, because I didn't get that last time. So I think Warren, I think you have the right stuff.
one. All right, Mr. Duke, we'll hang out.
Yeah. No, no. So, hey, don't do that to me, man. So Warren sent me a good question that I hadn't thought about, and it was, what did you aspire to be growing up? Because there were no astronauts, right? If Warren and I can grow up, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be whatever. But those didn't exist because you were the original crew. What? So it which just makes it even cooler. So what all did you aspire to be growing up?
Well, I was can remember World War II and all of the sacrifices that went into us winning that war, and not only personal sacrifices but national sacrifices, and so I decided that I wanted to serve my country like my daddy did.
Mm-hmm.
World War II. And so we were growing up. My twin brother and I were growing up in a small town in South Carolina, and so I decided I'd like. My dad was in the Navy, so I said, "Well, I'd like to go to the Naval Academy, so I could serve my country." So it was basically a desire to serve, and I liked the military. I'd been, making model airplanes, and during the war, and so we were all caught up in the war effort, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
even as preteens.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to go to the Naval Academy. And I had, when I got there, I had fallen in love with airplanes, really. And so I kept dreaming of being a pilot. And Navy gave us several opportunities to fly, just as, take us up and let you see what it is. And we had these called the N3N Yellow Perils. They were pre-World War II airplanes, but they were open cockpit, bi-wing seaplanes. And
That's crazy.
it was really fun. I said, I want to be a pilot. And so that started the aviation. And then I chose the Air Force over naval aviation. And when I was at flight school in October of 1957, Sputnik went up. And that was the beginning of the space age in my mind.
Yeah.
And so I think I would hear a story or two every once in a while about sending people into space. And so I was on my way to Germany, I think it was, or had just arrived when first group of astronauts were selected. And I guess I had a fleeting thought about, man, that would be really a great job. I was just too young, and I thought they were going to have the 7, and that was it, and but then NASA started expanding, and when I came back from Germany in '62, they'd had the second group, maybe the third group had been selected, and so you could see the expansion, but even then I was not qualified. But the Air Force had sent me back to school, and I think that I didn't have a dream of being an astronaut, but I loved to fly. And I left Germany in May of 1962, and I'd been there 3 years, and Air Force was sending me back to graduate school. And but I could have told the Air Force, hey, can I extend another year in Germany? Because I loved the job. It was tremendously exciting. flying airplanes over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then extend and then stay another year and then go to graduate school. And I think they would have approved that, but something in me said, go to graduate school. So I left this great job. If I'd extended in Germany, I'd have never made it to the moon. Because when I got to MIT, I ended up working on my thesis on the Apollo guidance and navigation system that MIT was building, had the contract to build. Anyway, I met some astronauts during this time, and they really motivated me to try to be an astronaut. And I kept asking what I need to do. And so it was just their enthusiasm and their excitement about their job that really flipped me to that way. And so I followed their advice, went to test pilot school, and graduated in July '65. And in August of '65, NASA says, we're looking for more astronauts. And so I applied, and along with three other guys in my test pilot school class, we all ended up there. And then another couple of guys from Edwards, Joe Engel, X-15 pilot, and Fred Hayes was another a guy from at NASA, works for NASA, but a civilian test pilot. So we all moved to Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a long answer for a simple question.
No.
I just sort of kept my antennas up, if you will, and you get these urges, hey, I ought to do that. That ought to be really fun.
And then the beer industry called your name.
Really rewarding. That's how I ended up and had 10 years, successful years.
There's some beautiful lessons in that, though. And it's not that you knew exactly where you wanted to go, but rather you kind of just kept following your heart. And it sounds like a cheesy Hallmark card, but it's like, follow your heart and you might end up on the moon.
Yeah.
But really, that's what it was. So it's like, you may not know where the end goal is, but if it feels right, move in that direction. And then, as Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss, and doors will open where there were formerly walls. Yeah. And it's these paths sort of cascade almost like dominoes, and it opens up, and it's, like you said, it was a whisper. We might put guys in space, and it was, oh sure, and then it's, you walk on the moon. Yeah, and it's,
yeah, exactly. And that's what I tell a lot of young people. I says, keep your antennas up, and you get these little urges inside, and there's feelings about, hey, maybe I ought to do this, and so your career just takes stepping stones along the way, and as you make the choices, fortunately for me, they all worked out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just glad I followed my I can't say it was a dream, but I followed my heart, as you said.
Yeah, it's the beer industry. Thinking of Coors, there's some odd parallels with Coors, right? You worked there after going to the moon, but also not a lot of people know, in the 50s, Project Pluto out in the Nevada test site, which was a nuclear-powered ramjet, which it was a weapon that was designed by, I believe, or put forward by Strategic Air Command. It was a low-flying nuclear-powered cruise missile that could fly for months on end, and they wanted to design this thing to fly over Russia, and it would drop nuclear bombs, it would spew radiation, and the shock waves would kill everyone. It was the doomsday weapon of all weapons. The reason why, think during the Cold War, the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the Pentagon during the Cold War said, we can't build this, it's too dangerous. But one of the companies involved with making the nuclear fuel rods was Coors. So some weird things. I mean, of course, has some questions, or they got some stuff to answer for. How come they hired a guy that walked on the moon? How come they're involved in building nuclear cruise missiles? There might be more there than we're looking at.
Had a lot of divisions.
Yeah, hey, diversify.
He's defending them. Do you still drink a lot of Coors?
I'd not heard that story, but
Oh yeah.
they a division ceramics.
Well, that was the division.
Yeah, and they were the best in the United States at one time in ceramics. But I was not associated with that. But I met the Coors family was wonderful people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome.
The ceramics division actually is the division because they made these beryllium oxide fuel cells, and they made thousands of them, and they're about the width of a pencil. And the government was making them, and they're like, there can't be any cracks in them because it will destroy the whole ramjet. And I think someone was just like, well, hey, who can build these like ceramic things like in mass and do it well? And I think someone was just like, what about Coors? Like they do it every day with beer, and they're like, that's not a bad idea. So
That's
Coors
like
was actually, yeah,
all the mason jars and cans to satellites and radar.
yeah. I mean, it's Coors, the hidden defense contractor. Mr. Duke, another question Warren had was, I mean, Warren coming with the good questions. Apparently, I need to hand over the podcast to him.
Let me ask you.
Oh yeah.
All right. I was gonna say, this is a big circle back. We were talking about how, being confident in the equipment is pretty key, right? I think there's a Chuck Yeager quote. It's like, if you aren't at least a little scared, you're not fully aware of what's happening. So was there anything you weren't confident? What was like the least confident area of the mission, whether that was flying or the rocket, takeoff, landing, that you were just scared of, back of your mind?
I wouldn't say being afraid was the right term. It was accepting the risk. You knew there was some risk, but the support that you had and the manufacturing just eliminated most of that concern and worry for me. I never stewed over any part of the mission. I thought we had trained and we had thought about almost every eventuality. And if the lunar module ascent engine blew up on liftoff, there's nothing you can do about it anyway, so don't worry about it. And I convinced myself that rocket engines are pretty simple pieces of gear. They don't have any moving parts. So
yeah,
you don't. You need a pressure system, a fuel tank, an oxidizer tank, and a electrical power to open the valves, and man, that beauty's going to start, And so I can't say I worried about anything. The only time I was afraid was at the end of our EVA when we had decided to do the Moon Olympics in honor of the Olympics in '72 in Munich later that year. And so John and we planned a high jump and a broad jump. And so John starts to bounce, and then I started my bouncing. And when I jumped, I straightened up and went over backwards. And that was scary because the backpack was your life support system, of course. And if it broke, you're dead.
Yeah.
So
did you win?
Yeah, I was going over I was going to go flat on my back, and I said, and I had this thought, do something. And fear is not a bad emotion if you don't panic.
Mm-hmm.
And so panic kills you.
Yeah.
And so it was just roll right. And I had this thought, roll right. So I rolled to the right as I disappeared behind the rover and broke my fall on my right hand and my right leg. Did bounce onto my back, but not so strong that it damaged. My heart was pounding, and John came over and helped me up, and we had a pressure gauge on the left wrist. It said normal, and the RCU, the remote control unit, showed quantities normal, pressures normal, everything. And you could hear the pumps running.
That's good.
Flowing. I began to calm down. I said, well, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Did you jump higher than him?
I'm sorry?
Did you win the high jump of the Moon
I
Olympics?
think so. John, John and I did about the same. His balance was fantastic. But if you watch this Apollo Remastered I was telling you about, it shows a lot of us falling down, getting really dusty. And so if you fell forward, you were okay, but it was the backwards. And that only happened once, and at least to me. And so I calmed down, but that was something where I realized that don't do anything in space that you hadn't practiced.
Fair.
We had not practiced in 1/6 gravity, the high jump. And we did a lot of stuff in 1/6 gravity in the airplane, and they had a harness they could lift you up so you could weigh 1/6, those kind of things. But anyway, it turned out okay. But that was the only moment I'd say that I had that was it was an movement. I'm in trouble. Yeah.
I think it's funny that the only time you would use the word afraid for your mission was when you were the cause of it.
That's
a lesson.
Yeah.
But a good lesson.
A lot of I think a lot of dumb things you do if you really don't think them through, and so that was one of them.
It's amazing. Warren's got to go in about 5 minutes, so we'll finish this up. I was, I'm kind of thinking more and more about your time with Coors, and I don't think, well, no, but I'm kind of upset that they didn't utilize you more. I mean, you think
it was him and an Olympic basketball player.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the dynamic duo.
That's
you
true.
Guys should have had some insane ad campaigns.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. Ad campaign, because what's Coors' whole thing, right? It's like Rocky Mountain Cold. It's got to be the coldest beer ever. The fact that they didn't utilize you, going like, I know cold, I've been to the moon, and then like crack a beer.
Alan Shepard was a distributor.
Oh, really?
Dude, Coors had the star-studded lineup.
Wooster had a distributorship in Gulfport, Mississippi. Jim Lovell tried for one, but didn't.
They didn't give
it.
Oh,
they didn't give it to Jim Lovell.
Well, he did. He changed his mind.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And so Coors had a philosophy back in those days that none of their, if you go back and look, none of their commercials had people in them. And they were all focused on the product, the can and the beautiful Rocky Mountain scenery and the bubbling water. And
yeah.
And it was only after I left when they started using people. They had a couple of pro ball players, one in a former Houston Astro, Dallas Cowboy guy. They had a lot of distributors that had well-known backgrounds, but they didn't use any of that.
They
crazy.
But they didn't utilize the astronaut that walked on the moon.
That's not saying astronauts are like athletes, but Shaq owns a Papa John's and a Krispy Kreme, and they really don't utilize him either.
Yeah.
But also, Mr. Duke, if you're ever in the Denver area, I'll bring you to the Coors headquarters and we can go on a tour of the brewery.
Oh, I've done that before. Yeah. Well, I sort of lost track, but I think the guys that run it now are Pete and Pete Coors, and there's one of his brother. They had another brother named Ed Coors that was or cousin. His daddy, he became a real devout Christian and was going around speaking. It was a wonderful family. The Coors family was really.
That's there's nothing Warren can offer you. You've done the course tour, you've been to the moon. There's nothing Warren can offer you.
I'm just trying to be friends with you, Mr. Duke.
Well, let me say been to the moon and all these things, worldly things, but the most exciting thing for me is walking with the Lord now.
That's
Oh,
beautiful.
love
I tell
That
a
is
lot of people, I tell you, that walking on the moon was 3 days. It was fantastic. I'd do it again. But the eternal walk with Jesus is forever, and the peace and joy and that I have in my family experience from that is far greater than being a 10th man on the moon.
That's beautiful.
Very
That
beautiful.
is Mr. Duke, the statesman, the astronaut, the distributor, the purveyor of advice. It is an absolute honor to talk to you. Warren's at work, and I made Warren skip work so he could talk to you. Mr. Duke, Mr.
Let me ask Warren, what is that background you got?
Oh, this background. So I think it was in the 70s, Stanford and NASA had a symposium where they had a bunch of architects and artists come up with futuristic
Oh yeah,
space habitats. So I got a couple on here that are pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh wow.
I got them from someone at NASA Ames who's like, "Oh, dude, you gotta have these."
Yeah.
He is the Chad at NASA.gov.
no,
Gave me these backgrounds.
we're talking to the real Chad right now, Warren.
Yeah. I'll send you these backgrounds if you want.
Mr. Duke, I would love to have you on again with Warren if you would be so interested sometime.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometime, sir.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
Let's stay in touch, Tommy.
Yes,
Okay?
sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Awesome. And it was
Got it.
absolutely awesome meeting you, Mr. Duke. It was a great time.
All the best to you, Warren. Okay.
Thank you so much.
God bless.
God bless you all.
Bye bye.
All right.